Hey, today I'm talking about 3 French movies, all personally recommended to me by my very lovely friend Nicole. And the names of those 3 movies are He Loves Me Not, The City of Lost Children, and A Very Long Engagement. First up is He Loves Me Not. This is a 2002 movie starring Audrey Tautou. You know her from Amelie. And the basic premise is hard to say without spoiling stuff. I went into this movie assuming that it was like some kind of quirky rom-com, which is totally what it starts off as. And I honestly did not care for it. The more the movie went on, the more I was just like, man, do I not like this main character? And do I not like anything that's really happening? And then we get to a turning point where we start to see things from a different perspective, and the movie turns into a very different movie. And that's where I started to like it a lot. And by the time we got to the end, it was a really, really good story told really, really well. And I, without a doubt, really enjoyed it. It was great. Let's just say it's kind of more of a mystery than a rom-com. And it works really well. It's a little hard for me to recommend it because it's hard for you to kind of know what you're getting yourself into. I think if you're intrigued by it, I think it's fine to go for it. As long as you're okay kind of following an unlikable character. And if you're kind of more down for like a mystery with like hints of rom-comminess to it, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It surprised me how much I enjoyed it, but I'm happy being surprised. Next up is The City of Lost Children. This is a 1995 French movie starring Ron Perlman, who, by the way, is not fluent in French, but actually does a really solid job here. And the basic premise is this mad scientist is kidnapping young children to steal their dreams, essentially, because he is unable to dream. He was made without the ability to dream, so he wants to steal the dreams from children. And it's a really solid movie. It's very steampunky and also whimsical. I would kind of compare it to like Pan's Labyrinth or like A Nightmare Before Christmas. Both they're whimsy, but then also with the latter is more so like, it's technically a kid's movie, but it's not really a kid's movie for all types of kids. I really, really like the aesthetic of this movie. That was a lot of fun. Like I said, Ron Perlman did great. This is the youngest I've ever seen him, but he's still like 40 years old and he's very attractive in this role. But he's just a grown man with like the mentality of a small child, and he partners up with a small child who has the mentality of an adult. And she does amazing. I was really impressed with her. Unfortunately, she didn't stick to acting, though she did do costume design for a long time, I discovered on IMDb. But yeah, it was a good, solid movie. It was a lot of fun. I would more easily recommend this one. I just think if this movie looks intriguing to you, it's gonna be the exact vibe you think it's gonna be. You're more easily set yourself up for success with this movie, because it is a good, solid time. And lastly is A Very Long Engagement. This is a 2004 movie, again starring Audrey Tautou. And the basic premise of this one is that Audrey plays this young woman who is engaged to this man who got sent off to World War I. And she got news that he died in World War I, but she doesn't believe that he actually died, so she is investigating his apparent death. So this movie is kind of really just a mystery. And it's pretty good. It's again whimsical and has lots of like lightheartedness to it. But then like whenever they show any of the World War I stuff, they don't sugarcoat it. Like they show some pretty graphic stuff. And it works really well because it's a good counterbalance to all of the whimsy of her investigating this thing. And I was also really impressed with a lot of the effects too. I did have a little trouble following the story just because there's a lot of French names and it was hard to keep track of who was who, because there was like 5 different soldiers we're kind of following. They're all involved in this thing. But they did do a fairly good job of explaining who's who every time we bring up one of the people from before, but it was still not the easiest thing for me. And then there was also like a whole other storyline with Marion Cotillard. She was Mal in Inception. Her whole storyline, I figured out what was going on, but it was just kind of a whole other side story, and we kept meeting new people in regards to that. I wasn't sure if they were people we already knew or not, and that's got me confused there. I did figure it all out eventually, but it was just a little rough at times. But don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed this movie a good solid amount, and I would actually recommend it as well. And then also, this is Nicole's favorite of the three, so she definitely would recommend it. Though she would also recommend all three of them because she did recommend all three of these movies. So, yeah. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not, sitting at number 4 in the really like section. And then not too terribly far behind is The Lost City of Children, sitting at number 9 in the quite liked. And then right behind that is A Very Long Engagement, sitting at number 10, also in the quite liked. And that is out of a total of 21 old movies so far this year.